All right, this is the day two of the crypto hearing on the collapse of FTX, this time in front of the Senate Banking Committee. We just heard from Committee Chair Senator Sherrod Brown a moment ago. Take a listen.
FTX and Alameda Research took advantage of the crypto industry's appetite for speculation. They were able to borrow and lend from other platforms and invest in other crypto firms, inflating the crypto ecosystem and growing their own profits. Even this summer, as crypto values crashed and platforms began to fail, FTX and Alameda found ways to benefit.
Joining us for more analysis is Greg Valliere, AGF Investments Chief U.S. Policy Strategist. Greg, always good to see you. Just want to get your observations from this testimony so far.
Well, it's been a disastrous week. It's been a disastrous last couple of months for the industry as a whole. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think what comes next is a very careful scrutiny of who they gave money to. From all indications, the firm gave millions and millions to members of Congress. So this story has got a long shelf life. I think we're going to have a lot of hearings over the next few months.
Hearings, and then what action do you believe comes from those hearings?
Hard to say. We'll see what Gary Gensler comes up with. I think there's a lot of pressure on him to show that the government can be tough. But I think that the hearings will pretty much illustrate the fact that there was lax regulation. It seems like every decade we have something like this, Madoff or Alan Stanford, something like that. But this is going to be something I think that will really sour this industry, this market for quite some time.
And that's part of what we're hearing from the hearing as well, is that some of the folks who were there are talking about that they do think that some of these abuses are even endemic in the industry. The question is, I guess, ultimately, what do they do about it? Because like many things in Washington, they talk about it for a long time, sometimes years. Sometimes they do something about it, sometimes they don't.
Very good point, Julie. I agree. Sometimes it's just hot air. But I would say that this time you'd have to think that consumers would realize how risky this investment is. And I think that alone will probably cast a pall over the entire crypto industry. Beyond that, I think that a lot of people are going to go to jail. And what I'm hearing from my friends in Washington is that, but some of the people, maybe not the head of the company, but could some of his colleagues wind up flipping, going to testify against the firm in order to avoid a lengthy jail sentence. That's not out of the question.
We're seeing Kevin O'Leary on screen, of course, one of the famed FTX investors and one of many profiles who promoted FTX along the way as well. We had already seen the SEC crack down on the promotion of ICOs back in 2017. Should that be the same case, do you believe, in the crypto landscape? Because we had seen so many athletes, prominent profiles that were promoting FTX as well. Do you think something similar will pass through?
Hard to say. I think we're still at the early stages of the FTX scandal. There could be athletes involved. But again, I think there are many people on Capitol Hill, members of Congress, who are going to be held accountable for all the money they took. Yesterday, it was quite a sight to see Joe Manchin, all these members of the Senate saying, we're returning the contributions. We're going to contribute to our favorite charity. I mean, everyone in this town is scrambling to weasel out of any kind of culpability, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think there's going to be a real scrutiny on who took all this money.
And does it do anything for that thinking going forward? I mean, obviously, campaign finance policy is what it is in the U.S. But do you think that there's any chance that members of Congress are going to be more careful going forward?
Probably not. I think that, there are lessons to be learned here, obviously, from consumers. But when you talk about getting new legislation, new regulation, that often can hit a brick wall. And I think it's like after a mass shooting. For 48 hours, everyone says we're going to have gun control, but then it fades as an issue. So I have my doubts as to whether anything can get enacted. But again, I think there'll be a lot of focus on members of Congress who have taken this money.
SBF is the person that everyone can point at to blame right now, but there's still more largely within crypto a space that is looking for answers and looking for some solidifying results as well as to how it can operate and protect the general public, people who are actually believing in the underlying technology. Do you believe that Congress actually has a firm handle on that?
No, I don't. I don't think they do. I don't think they understand the complexity of the industry. So no, I think it's going to be a long educational process. I think for the industry, in order for them to get back on their feet, they have a mammoth public relations effort. Obviously, they're going to have to convince the public that these are safe investments. I think they're going to encounter a very skeptical audience.
Yes, most definitely so. And sort of on that front as well, Greg, you know, again, sort of going back to whether Congress takes action, I think of sort of public skepticism of Congress's understanding of crypto, or for that matter, let's broaden it out and say social media companies. Do you think that Congress needs to do a better job? Admittedly, this is, in some cases, tough stuff to understand from a technology perspective. Can they do a better job? How do they do a better job of getting their arms around it?
You don't know for sure if the pendulum is really shifting now. I think it is. I think there's going to be a lot more skepticism, a lot more demands for transparency. I think that's all coming. But as I said a few minutes ago, in terms of any kind of really tough legislation, I'll believe it when I see it.
Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. AGF Investments Chief U.S. Policy Strategist Greg Valliere. Thanks. Appreciate the time.